in your way until you stop, dumbass.
Okay.
Our investigation found that the Phoenix Police Department violates the rights of people engaged in protected speech, including retaliating against people who criticize the department.
Welcome back, everyone. You just watched the body cam video from a Phoenix, Arizona police officer from August 2nd, 2022. This video has come to light from a Department of Justice investigation into the Phoenix, Arizona Police Department. This video is now gone viral. We've been asked to do a body cam breakdown of this. I'm Mark Redlich, that's Kyle Schoberg, and this is the Shots Fired podcast.
One of our listeners actually sent us the link from the Civil Rights Lawyer YouTube channel, who also did a breakdown of this video. We want to give it to you from the law enforcement perspective. In the video, you're going to see Kenneth ride up on a bicycle to a Phoenix police officer who was sitting in his patrol vehicle and flags him down. The officer gets out of his car and asks Kenneth what he wants. Kenneth starts telling the officer that there's some homeless people down the street, they need his help, and asks the officer if his job is to help people. Kenneth and the officer start getting into this verbal argument, and that's when the officer decides to go Hulk Hogan on him, throws him into an armbar, slams him against a patrol vehicle, and places Kenneth under arrest. Let's watch the video and break it down.
Can you help me out with something?
What do you need?
There's a bunch of people that need help over. You guys help people, right?
What do you need?
Do you help people? I'm asking you.
What do you need?
No, I'm asking if you help people.
I'm asking you what you need.
Oh, I need. There's a bunch of people over here that are dying in the heat and they don't have any food or water. Could you do anything about that?
As the man complained, the officer told him that by arguing, he was, quote, obstructing police operations.
Over there for them.
There is, but you guys just hang out in parking lots. But I thought you guys help
Do you
people.
need something?
I thought you guys were the ones that help people. I know, it needs your attention.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I got it.
You're obstructing police
I am?
operations, yes.
Oh,
so you
I
need to
am?
get out of the way of my vehicle.
Well, you're not even in it. I was knocking on your window to get your attention.
Yeah, get in my way. It's called obstructing police operations.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to a call right now.
The man laughed and called the officer a dumbass. Immediately, the officer grabbed the man's arm and slammed him into the police cruiser in order to arrest him.
So, if you don't need anything...
I wasn't in your way until you stopped, dumbass.
Okay. No, it's because you're not listening. Let's go.
So what was it exactly I did?
I already told you, obstructing police operations.
But the car wasn't stopped until...
So interactions between law enforcement and the public, similar to this, happen all the time. It's common that the public flags down a cop for many different reasons. Let's start with the officer getting out of the car. It's an officer safety issue. You're going to get out of your car. That way you actually have the ability to engage and talk to the person. In this situation, this conversation starts off not on a good foot. You can hear Kenneth kind of has a tone of his voice and is almost trying to push the buttons of the officer. But what's important to really think about here is the officer's response in this situation. Kyle, what would you and how would you respond to a situation like this?
Well, I think in this scenario, we always and often talk about not letting your emotions dictate your tactics. And in this case, the officer clearly let his emotions dictate his response to Kenneth's question, which was asking him about the homeless people down the street. That obviously frustrated the officer. Now he's getting pissed off with Kenneth. I think Kenneth probably recognizes that he's getting under the officer's skin, and now he's just asking him more and more about what he's going to do to help these people. You know, his job as a police officer is to help people, which is true. The officer could have gone about this one of two ways. Option B is what he did and got pissed off, and then that ultimately ends in arrest of Kenneth, and here we are doing this video. The other option could have been, hey, we have a team of officers who deal with the homeless. We offer resources. You know, you can talk your way out of that by explaining how you handle the homeless and the things that we do to try to help them. Tell this individual, if you have a call to go to, which the officer says he does, hey, I have a call for service to go to. I'll take a note. I'll pass this information along to whoever needs to get it. Get in your car and leave. Now, if this individual wants to, keep saying things, keep pushing the buttons, it doesn't matter if you get in your car and leave at that point. Like, you don't have to sit there and continue to have some prolonged conversation with this person when clearly they're getting under your skin. That's when it's time to go.
Those are great points. And in this case, they continue to banter back and forth. And the officer actually tells Kenneth he has a call that he's responding to and that he's actually impeding what he's doing. You looked up the code in Arizona for what impeding is and what ultimately he was arrested for. What does it say?
You're right. And I do think it's worth noting that when Kenneth approached the officer, it appeared as if the officer was backed into a parking lot up against a brick wall. So whether he was en route to a call, I don't know, but it didn't appear as if he was when Kenneth initially made the approach. Now, he says he's impeding his duties under Arizona state law. It says you can get arrested for obstructing governmental operations by interfering with law enforcement duties or by using physical force or violence or threatening to do so. You may be arrested if knowingly hinder, impair, or obstruct a government function's performance by an officially acting public servant, which is what a police officer is. Based on what we're seeing in the video, I'm not seeing that. Kenneth's bike is not in front of the police officer's vehicle. Kenneth was by no means standing in front of the police officer's vehicle, preventing the officer from leaving. The officer gets out of the car and engages the conversation with him. He could have very easily got back in his car, left, gone to his call for service if that's what he was doing, and it wouldn't have been an issue. Right before the arrest is made, which we'll show more of the video here in a second, Kenneth calls the officer a dumbass and actually turns, it looks like, to go away, grab his bike and leave. And that's when the officer decides to grab him, put him in an arm bar and put him up against the patrol vehicle and place him under arrest. Let's watch that part of the video and then go from there.
Oh, if you don't need anything, I wasn't in your way until you stopped, dumbass. Okay.
No, it's because you're not listening. Let's go.
So what was it exactly I did?
I already told you, obstructing police operations.
But the car wasn't stopped until...
What we just watched was Kenneth looked at the officer and called him a dumbass and then turned and was walking away. But the officer, you could see he got pretty upset based on his facial expression, reaches out, grabs Kenneth's arms, pulls him back, slams him up against the car, and arrests him. And at this point, that officer is now committed to that arrest. So we want to point out that, remember, this officer was just telling Kenneth that he's responding to a call and that Kenneth is obstructing him. This happens often in law enforcement where you're responding to a call and you get hailed or someone asks you or flags you and you stop to check on that person, but you have to triage and understand what the call is going or what call you're going to and prioritize. Is this situation more important than the call that you're going into? And I believe in this situation, it is not. If that officer was responding to a call, he could have easily said like your example 1 or 2. But what he's doing is he's diverting from that and now arresting Kenneth.
Yeah, so based on the law that we just read under Arizona, it doesn't appear, and I don't believe that he was impeding his duties as a police officer. The arrest has been made, and things actually get worse when they actually force him to take his fingerprint on a mobile fingerprint device. And like the civil rights lawyer says in his video, he pulls up Phoenix's policy, which actually prevents officers from even doing that. Let's watch that part of the video.
Now, part of the retaliation here that I don't think I even got into in the last video was that even though it was against PPD policies to forcibly take suspects' fingerprints, they did that in a violent way to Kenneth Ronald McDonald, just sort of in retaliation, even though it was against their policy, just completely ignored their own rules.
Turn away from me.
What?
Turn away from me.
Why?
I'm going to take your fingerprint.
I'm not going to give you my fingerprints, man.
It's not up to you.
I know, but I'm just not going to.
Well, it's not up to you.
Okay, I know.
All right, we'll pull you out and we'll force you then.
I mean, I'll get out.
Okay, we're going to force you.
I mean, force me all you want.
I was trying to be nice.
So the policy for the Phoenix, Arizona Police Department is that they can't forcibly use this fingerprint or to identify somebody. So why do they even carry this thing? Well, there's many reasons why. There's times when people don't have ID or they're playing the name game or they're not telling the officer who they really are. And the officer's asking, hey, I'm going to use this to get your fingerprint to identify who you are. And those people consent to that. And in this case, it'd be within the policy. Here, in this video, that doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, Kenneth is simply saying, hey, look, the officer says, hey, we're going to take your fingerprint. Kenneth says, I'm not consenting to giving you my fingerprint. Then the officer says, well, I'm trying to be nice about it, and we're going to do it anyways, and says, we'll use force to get it from you. So right there, he's already in violation of the policy. Kenneth says, I'll get out of the car for you. I'm just not consenting to give my fingerprint. I think where it goes really bad is they end up putting him on the ground, and as you can see in the video, and one officer is actually pushing his head down against the concrete while they're trying to get the fingerprint of Kenneth. That's worth mentioning because number one, it's Arizona and it's in August. It's no less than 100 to 110, sometimes 120 degrees there. That concrete or asphalt is extremely hot. And let's talk about the original arrest, why they're even doing that, supposedly for impeding the officer's duties. You got to ask yourself, I mean, is that really worth it to do that to that guy just to get his fingerprints because you're so pissed off that that's what you're doing now to him to get his fingerprint? Why couldn't that just be done at the jail?
So ultimately, Kenneth was arrested for impeding an officer and assaulting an officer. Kenneth took this all the way to trial because he believed that he was wronged in this arrest. And right before the trial occurred, the defense tried to bring out the history of the officer that actually made the arrest, because that officer was on the Brady list about 20 years ago. So now the Brady list is a really interesting subject. So we really dug into that. And Kyle, what did you find out about the Brady list?
All right, so the Brady list is a list compiled usually by the prosecutor's office or a police department containing the names and details of law enforcement officers who have had sustained incidents of untruthfulness, criminal convictions, candor issues, or some other type of issue placing their credibility into question. Why is that important for this case? You said it, the prosecutor's office the defense tried to get this brought into the jury trial so that the jury was aware of this officer's prior behavior. The prosecutor says in this video that it was 20 years ago that the officer had this prior conviction of excessive use of force. The defense comes back and says, well, it is relevant because that was 20 years ago, yet he still has the same type of behavior, and asked to have that brought into to the jury trial. The judge awards the defense to have that brought into the jury trial. That's when the prosecutor says that they would like to have the case immediately dismissed in the interest of justice, because they knew once that comes out, the officer's credibility is going to go down the drain, and they're not going to get a conviction out of that. So
the report that we do have is an incident that happened over 20 years ago. The state doesn't believe it should be able to come in this trial.
Similarities in the case are they're similar. They're very similar. And the 20 years could be seen just the other way. I mean, it means that the pattern still exists after 20 years and nothing's happened. And that's why I think it's important.
The fact that the officer was on the Brady list is relevant, and the court will deny the request that precluded from testimony in this matter.
And then overnight, prosecutors claimed that they had just learned that the other officer involved, Brian Alvarado, had been recently caught falsifying timesheets for off-duty overtime. In other words, he had been caught lying. Both of these officers, Alvarado and Toriano, both with a history of misconduct that was so egregious that it was going to have to be disclosed to the jury, according to the judge in the case. Serious enough that prosecutors were so concerned that they just dismissed the case.
The state no longer believes we have a reasonable likelihood of conviction, so it's in the interest of justice to dismiss it.
And even if this didn't come out, if the judge denied that, I don't think anybody would have found that this was a guilty verdict.
No, absolutely not. I think as soon as you watch the body cam footage, there's no way you're going to convince a jury of 12 people unanimously that guy, Kenneth, did anything wrong and should have been placed under arrest for not only impeding that officer's duties, but also for assaulting the police officer. So that's where we're at with it. At the end of the day, look, our channel is all about being unbiased, truthfulness of everything that's happening, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent. And in this case, the civil rights lawyer puts out a good video on this. He's just explaining through the law exactly what happened and how these officers violated Kenneth's right. It went to the DOJ. They also agreed with that. And we're just here to provide from a law enforcement perspective what we think. And sometimes we're going to point out things that cops do that are not good and we don't stand behind it. In this video, we don't stand behind that type of behavior.
Yeah. And I think my final thought on this is videos. This incident was from just 2 years ago, and it really just came to light. Granted, it went through the judicial process and the charges were dropped, but it's just coming to light. So the importance of understanding that your body camera, the incidents that you're involved with today when you're listening to this podcast is going to stay, and that information can be pulled up for a long time.
All right, guys, that's all we have for you today. Thank you to the Civil Rights Lawyer YouTube channel for putting out this video. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, he puts out good content. We'll see you next time. Be safe and be smart.
See ya.